On this episode of City Talk from the Department of Innovation and Performance, Matt Jacob. From the Recycling Department, Teresa Bradley. And from the Office of Management and Budget, Melanie Ondek. City Talk starts right now. Hi, I'm John McIntire. Welcome to City Talk. A several months-long City Talk investigation has proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that, believe it or not, city workers actually work for a living. I know, try to keep your seats. Meet one of them right now from the Department of Innovation and Performance, Matt Jacob. Matt, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
What do you do for the Department of Innovation and Performance?
So my title up there is business analyst. I work with the project management team. My primary responsibilities up there would be running Cartograph, which is a asset management software system, as well as being the project manager for the Smart Litter Can project.
Smart Litter Can. So you single-handedly developed smart garbage cans.
So a couple years back, we piloted the technology of putting sensors in garbage cans to let us know how full they were and when they would need to be emptied. We went out and requested proposals from other companies, and so we got a respondent, and we've been rolling that out ever since. So,
when did you first discover that garbage cans were dumb?
So it wasn't actually me. It was Public Works that the director there. He's been with the city for a long time. He's worked pretty much every job there is in Public
Gable?
Works. Yep.
Yes.
So he had the hypothesis that not every garbage can needs to be visited every single day, so that there was a lot of inefficiency in that process. And so that's when we kind of pursued that.
So some people might think, well, all you have to do is look at it, but that's the beauty of it. You don't have to spend the manpower to go out and look at it.
Right. So we have garbage cans in every single nook and cranny of the city, and so instead of having a crew drive to every single one every single day, we can get a lot of efficiency and not having to visit every single can every single day.
How long has that been underway?
Since about, I believe, 2017 is when we started rolling it out. It's been a long process. We had to split it up into a couple of years since there's over 1,000 sensors now. But we're making some organizational changes at DPW to make sure we see the full benefit of the technology as well.
Do you have any idea how many garbage cans there are in the city that are city run or owned?
So on the streets, we have currently over about 1,200 that have sensors in them, and that's not including downtown. So downtown has probably about 400 or 500 more, and then there's parks as well that have probably 1,000 plus. So
are there a few lonely garbage cans that don't have any sensors just because you haven't gotten to them yet?
A couple, yeah.
That's great. And this is actually considered revolutionary technology, is it not? Other cities are copying this?
Yeah, so we're one of the first cities to really try it on a citywide scale. There are some other cities that have tried it in certain areas or kind of testing it out. So Boston and DC, for instance, have tried it in business districts or things like that, but they haven't tried to roll it out on a citywide scale. So a lot of cities have definitely inquired about it. They're very intrigued. Some cities definitely think they could see a benefit to it as well.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Pittsburgh. I grew up in Point Breeze.
And how did you develop an interest in tech?
That just kind of happened.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah. It's not
that rare.
Not what I went to
millions...
school for or anything like that. So I just kind of.
What did you go to school for?
History.
Where?
Temple University.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went to the CMU for grad school.
Congratulations. So that's actually just developed just over time. You just developed an interest because millions of other people have, so why not you?
I suppose, yeah. It's just what I was working on when I used to work in Public Works. That's where I started. So I eventually found my way into those projects, and that's why I'm here now. So.
Is that satisfying for you? How do you like your job?
I like it, yeah. I love working for the city. I get to do a lot of field work as a part of the Smart Garbage Can project, so I get to go all over the city. I'm definitely proud as well with the work we've done with Cartograph. So
tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's it's called an asset management system, and when we say asset, that's pretty much any physical infrastructure or kind of amenities that the city maintains. So that could be roads, parks, playgrounds, pools, buildings, trees, signs, traffic lights. The list kind of goes on. So we've built that system out a lot from where we started back in about 2015. And we're tracking details and conditions and costs on so many of the assets that the city maintains, and we have a lot more information than we ever had before on these things.
What kinds of things does it track? You mentioned the condition, et cetera, but
Yeah,
how does it do that?
So for instance, we inspected all the roads back in 2016, so they have scores in the system, and then we track paving activities on them so that we know a general idea of what condition roads are in, and it can help inform our paving decisions. So in addition to that, we have, we just track details about things. So we have maps of where the city steps are, where the trees are, what type of trees, what type of signs, things like that. So.
Those are two great projects. Is there anything bubbling up in the future? Are you a mad scientist still looking for your next project?
We keep trying. So the smart litter can stuff, we might look into trying it out in parks or in certain parks. We're not sure yet. And then with Cartograph, we're always looking for ways to expand it and build on it. So we've actually built some of our own apps on it. Rather than going out and buying other software. That's another thing we're proud of, is that we try to use the software we already have to meet needs of our departments. So for instance, we've used it as an inventory system for our warehouse, where they provide supplies to our DPW divisions and our city parks facilities. And we've also used it as a website for internal requests from city employees for building maintenance. So we build an app on top of it, and basically, like, let's say you're a firefighter and you have a leaking sink. Mm-hmm. You submit a request through that app on the website. It builds a job within Cartograph that's assigned to the plumbing person. The plumbing foreman gets an email notification letting him know that he has to go address this issue, and he goes and assigns his work to it. So we get information of what types of requests we're getting, how long it's taking us to answer them, the cost involved in answering certain types of requests, so that we can actually make decisions for staffing and things like that for how we allocate our resources.
And finally, Matt, Jacob, do you think robots will ever just completely take over the world someday, and we humans will be subservient to them?
I don't know. I think it's probably a long way off, but
Thank you.
We don't have robot garbage cans yet, no. So.
I appreciate the reassurance.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us on City Talk.
Of course.
Back in a moment with yet another incredible city worker. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Laura Dragowski from the Mayor's Office, and I'm here to tell you about BigBurg.com. We know lots of folks in our area are going through hard times, especially those experiencing homelessness. Let us show you how to get help. BigBurg.com is a web app that lists free, easy-to-use services in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. Introducing BigBurg.com. You can get to it from any browser, like Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Safari, on your smartphone, computer, or tablet. No downloads necessary. Here is BigBurg's opening page. You can make a For You selection to tailor results to match your gender identity or expression, age, veteran, immigrant, or family status. Not sure which selection to make? Choose All Services to see all listings. Here are some free resources you can find on BigBurg. Overnight shelters, places to go during the day to get out of bad weather, grab a meal, or get groceries and pet food. BigBurg will even help you with your job search, medical care, eye care, foot care, and STD clinics, free clothing, toiletries, and household supplies, places to take a shower and wash your clothes, and much more. All services are listed based on your location, so you'll see what's closest to you first, and you can change your location here. Need help right away? Call 911 in case of emergency. But you can check out the Safe Places and Hotlines button for the domestic violence and sexual assault hotlines, LGBTQIA safe places, needle exchange locations, veterans hotlines, and mental health crisis drop-in centers. If you find yourself on the street and in need of help, emergency shelter, medical assistance, a snack or a coat, or even just someone to talk to, press the Live Help button, and then use Email Street Help to contact street outreach workers from places like 211, who will come to you wherever you are in Allegheny County. They can get back to you Monday through Saturday between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., or you can call the 211 United Way helpline 24/7. BigBurg is completely anonymous. Even though a lot of different people use BigBurg, from caseworkers to police officers to community members, no personal information is recorded about the people accessing the site.
BigBurg.com helped me through my struggle, especially when I needed a place to stay at night, when I needed to find a meal during the day or during the night. When I finally got my place, BigBurg helped me find pantries during the day. When I needed to do my laundry, I was able to use BigBurg and the map to do laundry downtown. BigBurg is extremely beneficial. I highly encourage anybody who's going through a hard time to use it.
Want to share some information about a service or your experience using BigBerg.com? Hit the feedback button at the bottom of any listing to send us a message. Get the help you need with BigBerg.com.
Welcome back to City Talk. We all recycle, or at least we are all supposed to recycle. Meet the woman who is in charge of the whole shebang in the city of Pittsburgh, the recycling supervisor, Teresa Bradley. Teresa, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, John. Thanks for having me. I don't know about the whole thing.
Well, you are the supervisor, are you not?
That's correct.
You're the grand poobah.
Okay.
Big cheese, big kahuna.
No comment. No.
How did you develop a background in recycling so that you are qualified to do this amazing job?
Yeah, so we have how long? 10 minutes?
10, 15, you know.
Yeah, no, I've always just really been interested in resource recovery, as we like to say in the industry. Started in high school collecting bottles and cans and paper and things of that nature. I did take a little hiatus for a little bit. I did some trail work in the Intermountain West, but then I found myself back to recycling when I took a position in San Francisco, and then all else is history. And I moved here and worked for the local nonprofit, the Pennsylvania Resources Council, that some of you are well aware of. They do the harder recycle collection events. So I helped spearhead some large-scale waste audit work and also zero waste events, as we like to say in the industry.
Is that what you like to say?
That's what we like to say. We're striving for zero.
Good.
Yep.
So I watched some videos and we talked before you came on, and I was so upset with myself because I'm doing it wrong. For one thing, you're not supposed to leave the lids on the plastic bottles. You're supposed to take them off, rinse them out, and then put them in hopefully a bin. Is that correct?
Yes, in the city of Pittsburgh, that's what we recommend. That's actually a directive from our vendor, Recycle Source in Hazelwood. They take the materials and process them for sale. And in the industry, we say MRF, and that actually means material recovery facility. What we're trying to do here in Pittsburgh, and one thing that we're really trying to address, is the contamination. It's a huge thing right now. Is China's put up what's called the national sword. You and I have kind of talked about that a little bit. You might have maybe seen it in the news. 0.5% contamination. China no longer takes anything that's over 0.5%, waste paper, waste plastic. And so
if there's stuff in your thing you're recycling, just throw it away like normal.
So yeah, I mean, we want the material to be, like I said, as clean as possible. That's tough to do. I mean, I'll be honest with you, in the single stream curbside facility, but what we're doing is we're focusing more on basic recycling. So lids and caps off. We're really focusing on the plastics. So the plastics are really confusing, I think, for a lot of people. We're really focusing on taking what are called like the number 1 bottles and the number 2 jugs.
But those clamshell things that you get to go food from, those are no good.
Those are no good. They're a brittle plastic, and they just kind of wreak havoc in the at the material recovery facility.
Another thing I'm doing wrong that I intend to remedy soon is I'm putting them in these grocery store blue bags.
Ooh.
But those, it turns out those clog up the system.
They do downstream. So at the MRF, so it's at the MRF, it's what's called the star screen. And so all that material has to go up, but all those bags need to break up. And so what we're really encouraging residents to do is to get a blue bin under 35 gallons or less, or a cart. You can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's. We do have a grant, and we're also working on other grant opportunities. The mayor's committed to getting more blue bins out there. So I think you're going to see some significant changes in the next year of really getting more of those grocery store bags out of the system. And if you're a person that you can't afford, you're on a fixed income, the next best thing would be to get like a larger blue bag. So really it's get a blue bin or a blue cart under 35 gallons, put all your material in loose. You don't need to put a bag in that container. I just want to stress that. And then, like I said, the city's in transition. The next best thing would be a large 20 to 30 gallon blue bag instead of putting out, all like 20 to 30. We go to some households that have tons of Giant Eagle, or I shouldn't say, but the blue grocery bags, but with like a few items in them, right? So that's tough on our workers. That's just tough all around,
If you're a renter, does your landlord have to get you a blue bin?
Yes, and so we are a municipality over 5,000. It is actually, we are in a mandated community that everyone must recycle, including commercial businesses and those small apartments under 5 or the multi-unit dwellings over 6. And so we are going to start doing some like heavier enforcement probably within the next month as the mayor signed amended code towards the end of March. Yep.
All right, but if I'm in a 3-apartment house, he's exempt because that's not enough apartments.
No. So I think to answer your question, it's going back to what those code changes are saying. The code changes are saying that that landlord, that property owner must provide a blue recycle bin or a trash can with a lid moving forward. And that's for properties 5 or fewer.
Is this like, it's a never-ending battle, is it not? Because people do it so many different ways, and hopefully most are trying to do it the right way. But it's often difficult to like sort out enough stuff that you can actually recycle. Is that so?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, there's a lot of policing that's involved in it. It's just tough. And what we try to do is look at what are industry standards and see how we can not only reduce contamination in Pittsburgh at the material recovery facility. If anything's over 15% and Pittsburgh's creeping up on that number, that's really tough to not only sort out, but to get those materials, as we like to say in the industry, out to sale, out to market. So we want to make sure that we are being part of the solution and getting marketable materials, to the end. Because these are, at the end of the day, with recycling, we want to make sure that we turn that bottle into another bottle again, or paper into paper, aluminum into aluminum, et cetera, et cetera. So
I was just talking in the last segment to a guy who invented smart garbage cans. But it just occurred to me that when the DPW workers go to pick it up, they have to try to separate the wheat from the chaff.
So, I mean, the reality is what we're looking at right now. So yes and no, but more on the no side. But we are looking at potentially like smart sensor recycle containers, or maybe we'll do something where it's like a split container in the future. And
the reason it's probably no is it's contaminated because it's all mixed up.
It's all mixed up, and we can't expect, I mean, with the few DPW workers are out there, to pull all those bottles and cans out. And we do need to, as a city, move in that direction to give folks a better option to be able to recycle their bottle or can on the go. Right, on the go.
You seem very enthusiastic about it. You seem like you like your job.
Yeah. It's so. I think we did our pre-interview. You're like, how long have you been employed with the city of Pittsburgh? It's been a little over 7 months, but I've been in the industry for over a decade. And like I was mentioning, we've just haven't seen anything like this in terms of the markets. The markets, there's trends. They go up and down, and that's like really anything that you see, on the stock market and whatnot. But we're just not seeing it bounce back. We're actually seeing cardboard, for example. It just, every time I see the invoice, it just seems to be kind of on the decline in terms of the pricing index for that. So it's just been, but I also see it as opportunity, as we have some new programs out there. We have the ECSNR program as we move towards zero waste and giving residents of Pittsburgh an option, right, for the electronics and household chemical waste. So we do that. We're doing that twice a week at Environmental Services in the Strip. Must make an appointment. I want to make that clear on Wednesdays and Sundays.
If you want to give away your big old TV?
Yes. So yeah, Wednesdays from 3 to 8, and then 9 to 5 on Sundays. They just did a successful curbside collection event. The vendor did, so this is in partnership with the city. And they picked up about 9 TVs this past Saturday. And then we have our glass pilot as we're trying to reduce contamination and look at different ways, not only revenue streams. The glass, just so everyone's aware, is not a revenue generator. However, we did receive a grant from the Department of Environmental Protection, and we're piloting 3, they're bright green lime glass-only roll-offs, which a lot of people are excited about. And I'm excited, as a resident and a recycling fanatic, right? I put my bottles in there. I know that's going to be made into a bottle again, and it's staying it's very localized in terms of where it's going. So,
do you make everybody in your life recycle properly and shame them if they don't?
I don't. I think I used to do that when I was younger, and now that I'm a bit older, I mean, I'm fine with having conversations with people. I'm comfortable with that, but I'm actually originally from St. Louis, Missouri. Grew up in a community, Wildwood, Missouri, and they just switched the recycling. My parents had 3 bins.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Holy cow.
Fibers in one, and then actually glass was separate. You had to go to glass drop off, and then rigid plastics, and then aluminum. And now they just reported that they changed it again, and now they have to take their cardboard if they want it recycled to a separate drop-off location. So a lot of people, they've been asking me, like, do we see, like, is this going to be commonplace? Are we going to be practicing more source separation? I can't predict the future, but I do know that if we're talking about these are materials in higher and better use, then I think as a city we just need to continue looking at some of those as a potential option and a revenue generator. But no, we're still going to practice that single stream curbside recycling, and I would say, get a bin and, like I said, put your stuff in loose and to help be part of the solution.
So I'm not going to be able to talk you into walking around the city with me with a camera while you shame people for the way they are.
Oh, no.
No.
I just don't want to do that any longer. Like I said, I used to do that.
You've become a grown-up.
I've become a grown-up, yeah. A little bit.
Teresa Bradley, thanks so much for doing the show.
Yeah, thanks
Appreciate
for having
it.
me, John.
Very nice to see you.
You too.
Back in a moment with yet another city worker. Stay with us.
I'm Megan Stanley with the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations, the official civil rights agency for the city of Pittsburgh since 1955. The Commission on Human Relations works to investigate and remedy discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations for anyone living in, working in, or visiting Pittsburgh. We also provide outreach and education to ensure that all residents, providers, and employers know and understand their rights and responsibilities under the law. Our services are completely free and require no legal representation. We are also a U-Visa certifying agency, provide translators as needed, and do not ask citizenship status of anyone filing a complaint with our office. If you feel that you've been discriminated against in the past year in the city of Pittsburgh, contact our office. Our process includes a complaint intake where you provide information about what happened, a thorough investigation by a commission representative, a review of the relevant facts by a portion of our commissioners, and issuance of a final determination. We can also help mediate cases where both parties are willing to work towards an amicable resolution. The Commission on Human Relations is here to serve you Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. on the 9th floor of the City County Building. Just take the Ross Street elevators and come to room 908. You can also reach us by phone, email, our website, or social media.
Welcome back to City Talk. Well, there are a number of outstanding grants that cities might be able to obtain if they fill out the proper paperwork and are deemed worthy. And they're very valuable because we don't want to bleed the taxpayers of all of their money, although some of this may be taxpayers' money, but from other taxpayers. Here's Melanie Ondek from the Office of Management and Budget, and she's in charge of obtaining grants for the city of Pittsburgh. Melanie, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. My pleasure.
So how long have you been a grant writer? How did you develop the expertise to do things like that?
Oh, goodness. I've been writing grants probably since the beginning of my career here with the city. So I actually started as an intern.
Okay.
And have had several jobs since then. And grant writing has been a part of what I've done sort of since I've been here.
How long ago was that?
I've been with the city for over 7 years now.
Awesome.
Which is a long time.
It is. How did you initially develop the expertise? Is that something you learned in school or just by trial and error?
Sure. I think it's, grant writing is one of those things that people think is really scary because oftentimes it's a big packet of paper that can be hundreds of pages that you've got to sort of delve through. But once you get the lingo of grant language down, it's really just being able to take ideas and being able to write. So if you can write and you have ideas and you can work with other people, you can write grants successfully.
So are the proposals, do they vary widely? In other words, you're not just doing the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely. We apply for local foundation, state and federal funding. So we cover the whole gamut of the kinds of grant applications you might see. Some of them might be a few paragraphs and others might be binders full of information. So it really just depends on the opportunity that we're applying for.
I suppose it depends on the individual opportunity, but what are the odds that you'll get it? I guess that would also depend on how many grants are being handed out.
That depends on who the funder is, right?
Right.
You know, the interesting thing about city grant writing is that a lot of it is relationship building, and it's a lot of the administration putting forth the effort to ensure that our grant applications come to the top of the table when they're talking to other politicians. So as opposed to maybe a nonprofit who may not have those kinds of political connections, I think that's one major difference that you see writing grants on the city side of things.
But your language obviously really has to be credible. It has to look like we could really use this and we'll do good work with it.
Certainly.
Not just typity and whatever. Yeah.
Most definitely.
And your expertise at that has grown, I'm sure, over the years.
Yeah, I get to write about anything from electric charging stations for the city's electric fleet that we're developing to I'm trying to think of something like to street light upgrades, to we just secured the city's first domestic violence unit funding to fully staff that up for the Pittsburgh Bureau of Police. So I get to really touch all kinds of projects and learn all kinds of things. And probably one of your questions is, what's your favorite part of this job?
That probably is one of my questions, so you might as well answer it.
One of my favorite parts of my job, you know, it's not only the people that I get to work with. You know, we've got some really great folks who work for the city, but it's really that I'm always learning new things. Again, I get to learn about literally everything that a city municipality might touch, anything from people and human-related things to infrastructure and everything in between.
So you might have to go talk to the people at DPW for a while just to understand what it is they need and why it's so important in order to translate that to your grant writing proposal.
Most definitely. We lean on departments a lot for that expertise.
And is it mostly other departments coming to you and saying, hey, we found out about this grant, could you try to get it? Or are you constantly surfing the internet looking for grants?
It's a healthy mix of both.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
You know, there are grants that we apply for pretty much that work like clockwork. Yearly, we can anticipate X number of grants coming out per month because we just always apply for those. But there are always special opportunities that come up as well. So I would say it's a healthy mix of us sort of bringing grant opportunities to departments and vice versa. We do have a grant software called eCivis. It's a web-based platform. It's essentially Google for grants.
Okay.
So we're searching the internet quite literally every day, and we have a good idea of what the landscape looks like out there for all of the grants that are available.
Is there more money for grants available than ever before, or does that just depend on the individual area, or is it declining?
I would argue that probably grant money has declined, but it also shifts, right? So you may have, if you look at the federal level, different federal administrations have different priorities, right? So one may be really focused on climate change, one may be really focused on protection or defense or whatever that might be. So I think we're seeing constantly shifting funding streams.
Where are you from originally?
I am from Pittsburgh, born and raised.
Good for you. What neighborhood?
Originally Brighton Heights.
Okay.
And I live in Brookline now.
Awesome. And where'd you go to school?
I did not go to a Pittsburgh public school. I went to private school.
You're allowed to do that. It's not a crime. It's okay.
I went to a tiny school, Holy Child, which does not exist anymore, which is in Bridgeville. And then I went to Canavan, which does still exist, and that's over in the city-ish.
Okay. And how did you develop an interest in government?
I think I've always had an eye for government. I had a grandmother who was a business owner, and every time I was at her house, you know, she ran a flower shop and greenhouse, so not government related at all. But C-SPAN was always on, and she was always sort of that strong female voice in the house saying, like, you have to make sure you go vote, make sure you go vote. So from a very young age, it was instilled that, like, government matters and is important.
C-SPAN, but we need more people like her, because the people who watch C-SPAN might actually watch this. So
exactly.
That would be awesome, yeah.
So I think, you know, from a very young age, it was just sort of a seed that was planted.
That's great. And do you anticipate continuing in government service, or do you think I'm going to go write grants for some foundation or something?
You know, I don't know. The future is unknown.
Yeah.
I don't want to limit anything. I certainly very much enjoy what I do, and I don't have plans of leaving anytime soon.
And do you have people who help you with this? I mean, I know
do.
you confer
Yep.
with everybody, but I mean, you also have other grant writers you work
Yep,
with.
so there
or-
are 2 other folks on our team.
Okay.
So I work primarily on the pre-award side, which is mostly grant applications and grant writing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got 2 other folks who work sort of a little bit more on the post-award and pre-award side. So we have a nice dynamic between the 3 of us. If we get slammed with a ton of grants at once, we can all sort of shift shape if we need to.
Shapeshifters, eh? You get a bonus for that or anything? Because that's
No.
a special talent. So it sounds like you really enjoy the variety of your work because of all kinds, as you mentioned, all kinds of different grants for which you are applying.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone you're particularly proudest of? Like, wow, we got that one. You just mentioned the domestic violence one. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a huge one. It's really, really critical work that, the police is certainly doing the best that they can, but there's only so much you can do with the resources that you have. So the Hillman Foundation graciously stepped in with the Pittsburgh Women's Shelter, and they've been working collaboratively on building that project for the last year and a half, and it's finally coming to fruition now. So that's a really cool one from this year.
Is there anything you keep trying to tap and you just can't seem to convince them? You don't have to reveal that. Maybe it would be bad for you to reveal it.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't tell you.
Yeah, never mind. I withdraw the question, Your Honor. So what are the challenges in the year ahead?
Challenges in the year ahead.
Same as the challenges in the year behind, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah. Working in grants, you get into a nice rhythm and a cycle. You sort of know when your really busy seasons are and when they're not, unless there's a special project that happens, which they do pop up, and then all of your resources go to that.
Sounds like there's never a slow time, though. In other words, there are always grants.
There are
you can apply
always
for.
grants,
Yeah.
certainly. There are always grants. Summertime is a little bit slower
Okay.
for us. It'll pick up a lot in the next couple of months, so like September, October, November.
Are there any grants for like cable television improvement?
I'm sure there are.
All right.
We could have a conversation about that.
We will do that. Melanie Ondek, thank you so much for doing the
Thank
program.
you for having me.
Appreciate it. That's City Talk for this episode. We'll see you next time.